Morning, everyone. Or afternoon. Depends on where you're at.
Good afternoon. In Sicily at the moment. Where are you guys?
Austin, getting ready for the storm of consensus.
Oh no, I'm so glad I'm getting to stay inside and code.
It's probably for the best.
I mean, I've got FOMO, of course, as well, but yeah, trying to see the bright side.
I think you all have some awesome conferences over where you're at, though, too. So
yeah, there's a bunch coming up. I think we've got the big one is ETHCC in Paris. A few Cosmos conferences. Yeah, there's always something going on.
I think Austin just randomly came up on all of the different crypto conferences there. Like Consensus a couple of years back was in New York, and now it's in Austin. And then obviously Permissionless was in West Palm Beach last year, and somehow they decided that should be in Austin as well. So I think at some point those probably change to other cities, but it's definitely nice that it's in the backyard right now.
Nice. Yeah, Austin seems on fire right now. Everyone's talking about it.
They're definitely crypto friendly, which is good. But
oh, really? I didn't know the government was friendlier. Well, makes sense.
Yeah, you can pay your utilities bills with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and USDC now.
No way! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, but I think we have some folks in the mix now, so we can probably go ahead and get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, we're lucky to be joined here by the folks at Squid. Fig's one of the founders there and has really worked on building an incredible cross-chain swapping interface built on top of XLR. And we're definitely very lucky to be working with them. So today most of the talk will be focused around just what they're working on, maybe how they started the business, kind of where they're going in the future, and we'll open it up to some questions along the way as well. So feel free to raise your hand if you want to join in on the conversation, or you have a specific input you want to share with everyone, and we'll bring you up on the stage. So I think maybe we could start with an introduction, Fig, and about you and the rest of the team and what you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so my name's Fig. I'm one of the co-founders of. I'm working across the board, but I'm technical and doing partnerships. And Squid is I can give a brief intro. Squid, we're the cross-chain swap and interoperability layer on top of Axelar, like an integration layer. So Axelar is a cross-chain protocol, and it allows you to send tokens and messages across chain. And what Squid does is it's one layer above. It's like a DevX layer, which allows you to swap from any token on one chain to any token on another chain in one click, and also make payments as well. So like transfer from native USDC to native USDC, and then pay for, say, an NFT or go stake something. And yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome. It'd probably be cool to talk a little bit about the genesis story of Squid. So how did you kind of arrive there? What was some inspiration, and did you have any sort of product shapes before the current shape of Squid, or maybe it was like an adjacent market or something like that, and you iterated to like this current version?
Yeah, so Squid's story is really fun one. We began first met one of my co-founders we were both involved in a derivatives exchange, which is its own chain. And so we were introduced to this idea of alternate layer ones like really early. This is before 2020, and this idea of multi-chain was sort of ingrained in like what we were doing. And then as we sort of developed, Ethereum started scaling, or like starting to get a lot of adoption, and Polygon came out, or at least started to get a lot of adoption as well. We have Avalanche, Solana, and then now the rollups. We just saw the ecosystem trying to scale, and I was really lucky to have been introduced to Axelar really early on. And so I was seeing this expansion through the lens of the interchain, and it just seemed kind of so obvious that all these different pieces of infrastructure needed to be linked up via some messaging, a lot like the internet works. And so Squid story, we started out, we actually ran validators for a little bit to start, and then we worked on some DeFi protocols, went through a bunch of different ideas, a lot of multi-chain things, and through building some of these prototypes, we got close with the Axelar team. And I think it became clear through trying to build all of these different things. Cross-chain yield aggregation is one of them. It became obvious that you need just this basic primitive of swapping tokens between chains, and that's something which we would have needed to build for ourselves anyway. And Axelar wanted a project to build this on their protocol. They'd actually made a prototype of Squid themselves. This was in May last year, and so we took that prototype on, and I mean, we basically rebuilt the thing, but ended up finding this one use case which was obviously really needed, and built it for about 6 months, launched the back end, and then we launched the front end a few months later. And yeah, the adoption's been amazing. I mean, so many different projects need cross-chain capabilities to be able to bring users to their interfaces, and also to take payments as well. And since launch, it's just been it's been amazing. Very busy, but been good.
That's great. I think it'd definitely be interesting to maybe talk a little bit about the XLR ecosystem. Obviously, you have IBC and some other kind of other adjacent areas where people are building, but why XLR?
So we did so much research on this at the start because we were building. This is early 2021 that we're looking at cross-chain. So end of 2020, looking at different cross-chain providers. Actually, sorry, it's end of 21, and around end of 21, this is where you have like the Poly network hacked for 600 million, Wormhole got hacked for 230, Nomad got hacked a little bit later for 120 million. Like we had, obviously these crazy hacks happening, but multi-chain seemed inevitable. Like it just had to happen. So we found that Axelar's model was the most secure of all the generalized cross-chain models that were out there. IBC is really secure, but it wasn't generalizable at the time, and Axelar is a Cosmos chain anyway. So IBC is part of the solution, and Axelar works as a service network on top of IBC. So we get that as part of the package. But yeah, Axelar's architecture is it's a set of decentralized validators, like permissionless set of validators, verifying messages between chains. And the way it works is that when you say you want to go from Ethereum to Polygon, you submit a transaction on Ethereum, and an event is emitted on Ethereum side, and then the Axelar validator set. Every validator checks the Ethereum blockchain via a node they're running to see if that was actually, that source transaction did actually happen. And then once they've all agreed that it's happened, then they vote on the destination chain. And that's when the cross-chain transaction can occur. And what was different about Axelar at the time was that well, even now, is that the validator set is permissionless. So like Wormhole is a proof of authority chain, which doesn't have like its permission set of validators. Like same with layer 0, its validators are essentially like FTX was one of them. I think Andreessen Horowitz is the other. They've got like 3 validators essentially. So we wanted like a really decentralized network underneath the protocol, and that's really hard to do. And Axlar, the team are all genius, like kind of amazing. They're geniuses. So we were really bullish to just partner closely with them and focus on shipping around their solution.
That's awesome. It sounds like it's been quite the uptake, and obviously security's been plaguing the cross-chain bridging infra world last year. I think looking back at it, I think Lazarus Group picked up like it had to have been over $1.5 billion on different bridging exploits. So it's it's great that you guys are focused on the security side of things.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was actually 2.5 billion, or at least that's the number I have.
Jeez.
It's just totally nuts.
What's horrible, a crazy shout out to Lazarus was a lot of people don't know this, but in 2014, Lazarus, which is, if you're not familiar with who they are, they're a North Korean state-sponsored threat actor. So essentially, the North Korean government trains and deploys these like militant hacking groups. But back then, they were completely responsible for like a very infamous ransomware malware variant that was deployed to go hack up Sony in response to that movie called The Interview. Which was like it was a satire making fun of, I think it was Kim Jong Il at the time, or Un? I forget who the dictator was, but essentially the movie was making fun of the North Korean dictator that was in office at the time. And essentially that what was really special and interesting about that malware variant was it was the first ransomware malware variant deployed that was actually using Bitcoin as a means to like pay off the ransom. And at the time, it wasn't a whole lot of Bitcoin. Obviously, in 2014, I think it was maybe in the hundreds of thousands, maybe in the low millions, to get the private key to unlock all of the different computers on the Sony network. But at the time, or like later on down the road, it became like worth, I think, around $900 million at the height of Bitcoin. So like these guys have been around for such a long time, and they've been innovating in like as far as like black hat hackers go. So it's very interesting to see how they've evolved from like ransomware, malware exploits to like bridge hacks to like these guys are running a very lucrative business.
I know. I mean, the whole time we were looking at cross-chain architectures, we were like, maybe we should just be hacking instead. But obviously that's not what we want to do. But yeah, I mean, there's a big thing about decentralization, right? Like that's really kind of horrible that they can make so much money off it, and crypto is also making them money by extent, like by innovating and making prices higher. But I guess that's just how it goes with decentralization, in which the whole point of it is that you have to accept some downside with the upside, where instead of the traditional system where you hide all the downside and then it all comes out in one go later in form of a recession or a crash or something. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I think it'd definitely be interesting to hear about some of the different use cases people are using Squid for. Like, what are some of the like most common use cases? And then like, what are some of the use cases that were like caught you by surprise completely?
Yeah, sure. So the first use case that we launched with was just the basic swaps. and we partnered with a bunch of dexes, Stellar Swap, Quick Swap, Spooky Swap, mostly like the main dex on every chain except for mainnet, which obviously Uniswap we haven't partnered with yet. And that was, we got a lot of adoption for that. But the next step is doing a swap and then another action. And a really exciting one that's been getting a bunch of use is with a project called Vela Exchange, which is a derivatives exchange on Arbitrum. And in order to trade or to put margin in an account on Vela, you need to make a contract call. And what Squid allowed was you could swap any token in your wallet, no matter what chain you were on, into USDC on Arbitrum and deposit it into your margin account in one transaction. So you can imagine over the long run, the user experience is just that you have money in your account on Vela, and then you want to go trade on another, or you want to use another application. Maybe you want to buy an NFT directly from your margin account. You don't even need to think about withdrawing the money to the right place. You can just move money between applications seamlessly. Hopefully never have to think about the chain. Another one, an interesting one, is fiat on-ramping, because we found that a lot of applications were using us so that they could expand their addressable market. Because say you're a Cosmos chain and you have this awesome app chain that is really powerful and can handle much more throughput than an application on an L1 somewhere, but you have no way of onboarding users easily because they have to, and I think some of the chains you actually have to click like 30 times just to get assets from Ethereum onto the chain, which is insane. And what we allow is like going from 30 to one click essentially. And that use case is, I think that's really, really appealing to a lot of apps because the application developer has built this thing, but no one can use it. And we come in and suddenly anyone can use it. And then you extend that to fiat. And, this is sort of adjacent to what you guys are doing, that if you have a connection of what fiat to one token on one chain, say it's like USDC on Avalanche, you can connect the Squid network of swaps up to this one token, and then the fiat on ramping into Avalanche expands now to like fiat on ramping into any token anywhere. And I think that's something I didn't realize, the importance of at the time. That was exciting to see.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, a lot of on-ramp providers will get you to 100 tokens. There are some exceptions to that rule, but a lot of them will get you to 100, 200 tokens. So it's cool that people are using Squid to essentially expand their capacity to get users into maybe longer tail tokens. I wouldn't have guessed that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the longer tail tokens and it's the newer chains as well. I think as we might, if we see a real expansion of app chains and roll apps, it's a bit of an infrastructure lift for each of these providers to build their own support for every new chain, every new roll up, and maintain infra for all of these. And the model I have in my head is that Axlar is actually the outsourced infrastructure provider for that. For what they do is decentralized infrastructure support for different chains. And then Squid is the gateway into the liquidity on all of those chains through Axlar. So as sort of a package, these other companies should be able to scale really quickly with as the chain and roll-up world expands without having to put as much work into hosting 100 different nodes and wallet balances on all these chains. They can just manage one wallet balance on one chain, have a connection there, have an on-ramp there, and they, through Axlar and Squid, they can get get support for everything else.
And what I think is so unique about Squid in general is just its ability to compress and consolidate that user experience. So like, last year, if you wanted, for example, for those who don't know, if you wanted to go from like Ethereum to Solana or vice versa, like you'd have to go use Wormhole. Now it's called Token Bridge or Portal Bridge. And that would take you, 20 plus minutes and 30 clicks. And it was great for the natives because there's nothing. But like at the same time, like it inhibited a lot of new users from coming into the space. So like I think it's so great that like, Squid is, checking the security box. It's like enabling people to build at the application layer and consolidate like the amount of like swaps and disparate interfaces that the user has to make to like get from some token on one chain to destination token on presumably a different chain. So, and then I think like the last bit of that is like the speed bit. So there's some cool stuff you can do there around like front running. I think maybe like down the road, there's probably some ability to do atomic swaps, but kind of it'd be great to hear kind of like in a perfect world, a year or two from now, like what are some of the things you're thinking about that like would be more feasible, that would like make some of these swaps more seamless despite block times across different chains?
Yeah, this is something I'm really excited about. So we've actually got it live in mainnet right now. You can go to Axlar Scan and see the transactions coming through, and you'll notice some of them have Express executed next to them. And what we're building with Axlar, or what we've built, is a market making layer on top of the decentralized bridging and swapping. There's essentially what usually happens with bridging is you have to wait for finality on the source chain. So with Ethereum, that's 15 minutes. With Arbitrum, it's 20. Polygon, it's 6. And with just integrated Filecoin, it's like 8 hours. So instead of waiting that long for your transaction, we have a layer on top which witnesses the request for a cross-chain transaction on the source chain and then lends the bridged amount, say it's a $100 swap that you're doing, lends $100 of Axlar USDC on the destination chain, executes the exact payload, and registers this against a smart contract. And when the money comes through, say like 15 minutes later, the market maker gets paid back for their loan instead of the user getting paid for a second time. And what this all means is just that all the swaps and transfers through Squid are all between 5 and 20 seconds. And I think in order to get adoption all over the world, and with not just with nerds, is like we're going to need to have really fast transaction times no matter where you're transacting. And yeah, that's what we have here. So it's not quite atomic. You mentioned atomic before, but atomic I think of as, yeah, I mean there's a couple of different definitions of atomic. I think true cross-chain atomicity is basically impossible, because the whole point of having like two different chains, they're different execution environments, and then they're not linked in the trust in each of them is different. So true atomicity is impossible, but what we can get to is near instant. So instead of like 5 seconds, it's 0 seconds, and we can get there. So I think, who knows if that would be this year, but it's essentially just a tweaking of what we've already built. what currently happens is the user submits their request on the source chain, and then a relayer sees that and immediately executes on the destination chain. But instead, we can have a mechanism where both transactions are submitted on the source and destination at the same time, and then the user gets essentially instant finality. And we're working with some MEV style providers to we're looking at that with them to try and get this proper instant finality. But for now, I think 4 seconds is still really good. And I think, I'll finish off. You can think of the important thing with all of this instant finality and atomicity is it still needs to be censorship resistant and secure. And that's, I think, part of what we're so proud of with Squid is the way it's built, that if this market making layer fails for any reason, all the fully decentralized, permissionless, censorship resistant infrastructure still runs as if nothing has happened. So it's not just tending towards being a Web 2 system again, it's getting Web 2 speed, but it falls back to this full decentralized model whenever it's needed. And I think that differentiates us a lot from some of our competitors too.
Definitely. I think it's definitely interesting. You guys have achieved such a fast swap time with that architecture model, and it's kind of like you guys are at 25 chains now and expanding every day, I'm sure. What are some of the big challenges as far as chains go that you still have left to tackle that you're really excited about? Would that just be maybe like Solana or some other non EVM chains that are a little bit different?
Yeah, we're really excited about going to the Rust-based chains. So Cosmos chains, Near, Solana, Sui and Aptos are Rust as well. We're also looking at Polkadot. So those are all things that we're working on and excited about. But also expanding to the ZK rollups. Those are still EVM chains, but I think, I'm just bullish on ZK generally. So it's going to take some time, probably be slower than the cross chain stuff we're doing, but connecting into those ecosystems is going to be really fun too.
Is there a specific ZK that you've been looking at that you're really excited about in particular?
Well, we'll be hooking up to ZK Sync hopefully pretty soon. So definitely excited about that. Polygon ZK VM. No, I don't have. And then also, I guess this isn't necessarily that public, but looking at different rollups on Axelar as well. So ZK has a lot of powers around bridging. So, bridging and the computation, the cryptography behind bridging is really expensive, generally. Expensive computation, and rolling that up into a ZK proof or something like that is really good for is good for speed, good for scaling, and Axelar's looking at doing that too.
Yeah, batching with ZKs will be great at scale, I'm sure, when you have millions of people using it and you can batch some of those requests and merge on and off chain. Do you think there's a role for you all? It seems like everything is moving towards in Web3, and everything in general is moving towards AI as table stakes. It's kind of trite, and you just almost get tired of it because you see it every day, but it's still the progress is hard to ignore there. And there's been some really cool teams that have focused on using AI and ML to like supercharge their kind of like their Web3 products. A good example of this would be like the Odos team. They're kind of a DEX that allows you to use multiple tokens and sources your destination chain with like multiple liquidity, and they're using like reinforcement learning to find the best path, and they're pulling in a bunch of infra on their end to basically route the best path in terms of like time and cost. So is there a role like of AI as far as like your product shape or just in general with like cross chain, and like how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, definitely. We've been building something with AI recently, actually. I don't know when it'll be released, but basically, we're using it to help generate transactions. So if you have your intent displayed in as AI instead of using a widget or something, then we can generate a cross-chain transaction just from text. And yeah, I don't know how much that will really be used in the long run, but it's a really cool experiment that we've done internally and super excited about.
I think it's definitely probably interesting because it might open up some more like market making opportunities. Like, have you been seeing any interest from folks on that end?
For market making opportunities, you mean on the cross chain stuff?
Yeah, just arbing on cross chain.
Yeah, I mean, we've built something internally. It's not to make money. It's just it's just to keep the pools balanced. But yeah, 100%. These are graphs which are going to need like rebalancing. There's a lot of new cycles that might be opened up in the markets. Now cross chains faster.
Yep.
So yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had a few at least traders implement our SDK for moving things around, and yeah, I've been really excited about it. Definitely.
Yeah. I think it'd be. I think we've covered a lot of ground. It definitely would be good to get the crowd's perspective. Like we've talked a lot about a lot of stuff. Like, did anybody have any questions about anything we covered, or just in general? Like, if you want to come up and talk, like, feel free to come on the stage, and could be anything related to cross chain or Web3 or AI. So don't be shy.
I mean, I'd ask while people are putting their hands up. What are you guys doing with AI? You got any projects in the works?
That's a good question. I think on our end, we're still very much exploring the role of AI in our product. It's very much, I think, very much like kind of like Odos's product shape. We'll try to use some shape of AI to better optimize how we do cross-chain routing. So inevitably, there will be a bunch of different infrastructure that we pull in. Fig and the Squid team are like a very important part of that. But from getting the value prop for kind of what we're working on is getting into like very, very long tail tokens with games specifically. So it's like getting from getting from IMX token to like some long tail Solana game token can be kind of hard. So if we're going to pull in a bunch of infra, like how can we best optimize that? Similar to like similar to Odos, but Odos is really focused on their DEX aspect. So not so much cross chain.
Yeah, Otis is such a cool project. For sure. Like, I think the way we're looking about this, and probably similar with you guys, is these gigabrains, that there's going to be like so much optimization with this, like at least single chain routing. The cross chain stuff is more about like putting these components together in a way that it makes the user's life easier and makes like real business use cases possible. And that's where you guys are doing really cool stuff as well.
Yeah, I think for us, it's like, can we make it highly usable? Can we make it cheap to use? Can we make it pervasive enough for people to use, regardless of their technology background? There's a lot of interesting like regulatory issues and other like non-technology issues you kind of face along the way that some people like. It's hard to have appreciation for unless you kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. So that's kind of like where a lot of our focus is right now. So it's definitely been fun building at the application layer. I think we're at the point where we have like such great infrastructure under the hood that like you can build a lot of things in Web3 no problem at the application layer now versus like a year ago would be way different.
Yeah, definitely. The stack for building applications is getting more mature, I think. I think we're definitely like still in an infrastructure phase, but I just feel like everything is more less scary and a little bit more defined. And we have ChatGPT now, so you can build anything.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been interesting. We had a lawyer bill that was a little bit higher than we kind of expected. So it's going to be like, can we use ChatGPT to like eliminate some of these expenses and like make early stage startups a little bit more efficient? So it's going to be interesting tinkering with like ChatGPT for some of these things. So we're playing around with some of the more contractual language that like ChatGPT can like write up for like, I don't know, privacy policy or terms of service or an AML policy, for example. And if you think about it, it has a pretty large corpus of data for that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it's been interesting.
It's such a good use case for it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a good friend of mine's a lawyer, and a few years ago I was looking at writing making a PDF parser, and even it was just, I can't remember exactly what it was, but his job was just reading for hours and hours every day through thousands of documents and maybe getting a little bit of information out, but it's just such obviously a job for AI. It's really, really exciting to see lawyer work being outsourced to these things.
And it's pretty good. It's like, it's probably about like 80% there. I mean, it can pass the bar. It's pretty intriguing.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you're right, the corpus of data is so enormous. It's all public. Yeah, we've used it for a bunch of not fully legal things though, just business agreements and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to see that future technology making startups more possible with less funding because of AI. That's an awesome use case.
Yeah, then it becomes less of a funding battle, especially if the rounds kind of consolidate, which isn't the worst thing in the world. if you have productivity tools like that's driven by AI. So, but I think we have a couple folks. I'm gonna start inviting some folks up here, and we'll maybe invite Edon and Dimitri, or maybe Dr. N.
Yeah, Ben sending them a couple invites here.
Gotcha. We got a shy crowd as usual. a lot of the crowd. We, with Fig's like highly technical background and some of the stuff he's been answering, I'm sure that's kind of where our audience trends. So
yeah.
Well, I think if there are no questions, Fig, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that's all from my side. Been really fun. Thanks for having me on, and great to chat again.
Yeah, likewise. I think all of us got some more continued appreciation for what you're building and the problems you're solving and how important you are to the space. So we're really excited to continue to work with you and really see where this goes.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much. I'm super excited about what you guys are doing too, and looking forward to working together more as well.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll call it a day, and we appreciate everyone coming, and we'll have this up for anyone you wanted to share this to later on.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming, guys, and listening. I'll see you guys later.
Have a good day, everyone.